Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Allahumma faqihna fi ad-din wa 'allimna at-ta'wil ya rabbal alamin. Allahumma inna nas'aluka 'ilman nafi'an wa rizqan tayyiban wa 'amalan mutaqabbala. One thing, yesterday we covered the chapter of Tayamum and how to make Tayamum and what are the conditions of Tayamum and the type of soil that you make Tayamum from. One aspect I wanted to clarify or expand upon is that yesterday we mentioned that the type of soil you're allowed to use for Tayamum is soil which has or dirt which has dust in it. Now, the majority of the scholars have mentioned that you are allowed to use anything that comes or that is produced from the earth. So, for example, they mentioned that you can use a wall to make tayammum as long as that wall is made out of, for example, cement, or it's made out of something like blocks, concrete blocks, or it's made out of something which has dust or has particles which are from the earth originally. Right? Even the ground. You can make tayammum from the ground, even if the carpet, if there is dust or particles on the carpet, then you can make tayammum from that as well. Anything that has dust or particles, which is originally from the ground, right? It is permissible to make tayammum from, according to the majority of the ulama, the majority of the fuqaha. Today, inshallah, we're starting the chapter of Bab al-Hayd, the chapter of menstruation. قال المصنف رحمه الله ويمنع عشرة أشياء, and it prevents 10 things. So when a woman has her hayd, her menstruation, there are 10 things which she is not allowed to do when she is on this time, when she has her hayd. Number one, فعل الصلاة. Number one, the act of praying the salah. So she's not allowed to pray her salah while she is on her hayd. Number two, wujubaha. Number two is the obligation of prayer. So a woman, when she is on her hayd, she is not obligated to pray. And we'll see the difference when it comes to fasting, because for fasting, she is obligated to fast, but she is not allowed to perform the act or do the act of fasting. Whereas for prayer, she is not allowed to pray and she is not obligated to pray, meaning she does not have to make up those prayers later on. But fasting, she's obliged to fast. She's obligated to fast, but she's not allowed to do the act of fasting during that time, meaning that she needs to make up those fasts at another time. Number three, وَفِعْلُ الصِّيَامِ, and the action of fasting. Right? It did not say wujub al-siyam, it said fi'l al-siyam, meaning you're not allowed to fast at that time. However, it is still wajib upon her to fast, meaning she has to make them up at another time. Number four, wat-tawaf. Tawaf around the Kaaba is also not permitted when a woman is on her hayd. وَقِرَاءَةِ الْقُرْآنِ. Number five is the recitation of Qur'an. And many of the scholars have said that if she needs to recite the Qur'an for a class, for example, or she is teaching, or she fears that she will forget the Qur'an, if she's memorized a large portion of the Qur'an, she fears she will forget the Qur'an, then it is permitted for her to recite the Qur'an. Number six, وَمَسَّ الْمُصْحَفِ, and the touching of the Mus'haf, the Qur'an itself. And the majority of scholars have mentioned that touching it with her bare hands. However, if she has a barrier with it, a barrier on her hands, then she can touch the Quran. For example, if she has a piece of cloth, or she uses her clothing, for example, to open the Quran, or she has gloves, for example, while turning the pages. Number seven, وَلُبْثَ فِي الْمَسْجِدِ, and staying in the masjid. And here, once again, we have to pay detailed attention to the words that the fuqaha use. Right? He said staying وَلُبْثَ الْمَسْجِدِ, and he didn't say mirar al-masjid. And the difference is lubth al-masjid means staying in the masjid, staying there, sitting there, hanging out in the masjid for a long period of time. This is what is forbidden. However, just mirar, passing through the masjid, is permitted. So a woman is allowed to pass through the masjid. If she needs to get something from the masjid, she needs to collect something and go out back to her home. We know that the Prophet ﷺ, his house was attached to the masjid. So for his wives to leave, they would have to go through the masjid, right? They would have to go in or pass through the masjid to get to their homes. Number 8 is wal wata fil farj, and intercourse. Number 9 was sunnatul talaq, and the sunnah divorce. In Islam, the fuqaha have divided talaq, divorce, into 2 types. Talaqun bid'i and talaq as-sunni. Divorce which is a bid'ah, an innovation, or divorce which is considered from the sunnah way of doing the talaq. And that is to divorce, to do talaq when your wife is on her tohar, when she is not on hayd, when she is pure, wa lam tujami'ha fi, and you did not have intercourse with her during that tohar, during that time. Talaq al-bid'i, the bid'ah version of talaq, the talaq that is haram, is if you divorce her during her hayd, or if you divorce her fi tuhrin jama'tuha fi, and you had intercourse with her during that period of time. So if you divorce her after you've had relations with her, during her pure time, during the time when she does not have her hayd. Or the third type of talaq, which is haram, which is bid'ah, is divorcing your wife more than once, right? More than once at the same time. For example, there are some people that they do 3 talaqs in one shot at once. This is haram. This is something which is haram, and it's something which is not recommended, not allowed in Islam. Number 10, wal-i'tidada bil-shahr, wal-i'tidada bil-ashhur, and counting the waiting period according to the calendar. So as long as a woman has her hayd, then these are the things we're talking about that are haram, right? These are things that are not permitted for her to do. She is not allowed to count her iddah by the calendar. Meaning that when a woman gets divorced, there's 2 times. There's either 2 situations. Number 1, she's a woman that has had her hayd before, or number 2 is she hasn't had her hayd before, right? She has not had her hayd before. If she never had a menstruation before, and she is divorced, then how do we know when a woman gets divorced, she needs her waiting period, her iddah is 3 periods, right? 3 menstruations. So how do we know if she never had a period before, right? You count 3 months. You count 3 months, and that will be her waiting period, if she never had a hayd before. If she has had her hayd before, then you don't count by the months. It is haram to do that. You count by her menstruation. So you wait until 3 of them are over, and then that is the final divorce, right? Her waiting period will be finished. And we'll talk about the rules and regulations about the divorce in Bab al-Talaq, in the chapter of divorce, in detail, insha'Allah ta'ala. وَيُوجِبُ, and it necessitates, or the following things become wajib. Number 1, al-ghusl. Number 1 is making ghusl. And of course, making ghusl for a woman, after she gets the hayd, at the end of the hayd, it becomes wajib upon her to make ghusl when she becomes pure again. So it is wajib when she gets that hayd to make ghusl at the end of it. Number 2, al-bulugh, meaning puberty. So if a woman has her hayd, that means she is now at the age of puberty. She is now, this is proof, this is clear evidence that she has reached that age of puberty. And all of the rules in Islam that are for the person that has reached the age of puberty are now, she's now obliged by them, right? So she's now considered a woman, and everything is accountable for her as if she's an adult. She's reached that age of adulthood. And in Islam, we don't have that concept of a person reaching 18 until they're accountable or until they are considered an adult. When they reach the age of puberty, that is when they are considered an adult in Islam, and that is when they are tried as an adult if they go to court. They are everything, they are taken as an adult. Everything is, they are accountable for everything. So all of the wajibat of Islam, if they need to pay zakah, it is wajib upon them. If they have enough money, they have to pray all of their salawat, they have to go to Hajj if they have enough money for Hajj, etc. Number 3 of the things that are wajib upon her is al-i'tidadu bihi, counting by the waiting period according to it. So as we said previously, when she has a hayd, it becomes wajib upon her, if she goes through a divorce, that she counts her waiting period by the hayd, the period that she has. So you would use 3 until the final divorce is completed. فَإِذَا انْقَطَعَ الدَّمْءُ أَبِيحَ فِعْلُ الصَّوْمِ وَالطَّلَاقِ وَلَمْ يَبِحْ سَائِرُهَا حَتَّى تَغْتَسِلْ. And when the bleeding stops, then her fasting for her is allowed. Fasting and talaq and divorce is allowed. And the rest of those things that are not allowed, the rest of the list that we spoke about, those 10 things, are not permissible until she makes ghusl. So from those 10 things, fasting, siyam, and divorcing, her husband divorcing her, these things are permitted as soon as the blood stops, right? So when her blood stops, even if she did not make ghusl, she can fast the next day, right? So for example, her blood stops in the middle of the night, and she wakes up, it's Ramadan. She does not have to take ghusl before she starts her fast. She can fast just like that, and she can take her ghusl later on, right? She can start her fast. Talaq, her husband can divorce her, and it would be considered a proper divorce if he divorces her after the blood stops, before she made ghusl. However, everything else on that list, she needs to make ghusl for. So for example, prayer, she needs to make ghusl before she prays. For tawaf, she needs to make ghusl before she makes tawaf. For touching the mushaf, for reciting the Quran, and to the end of the list, she needs to make ghusl before she does those things. وَيَجُوزُ الْإِسْتِمْتَاعُ مِنَ الْحَائِضِ بِمَا دُونَ الْفَرْجِ. And it is permissible to enjoy all forms of pleasure with a person or with a woman that is on her period, except the act of intercourse. Except the act of intercourse. لقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اصنعوا كل شيء غير النكاح. Do everything except intercourse. So you are allowed to do other things with your wife, for example, foreplay, kissing, etc. These things are permitted. The only thing which is not permitted is the act of intercourse itself, right? Perhaps there are some people that think, that you're not allowed to touch your wife during her period, right? During her menstruation, and this is incorrect. You are allowed to touch your wife. You're allowed to do everything with her, except the actual act of intercourse itself. And we'll end here today, inshallah. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Yes, question. Yes. Talaq al-bid'ah. The question is, Talaq al-bid'ah hal yaqa' am la? If a person divorces his wife, and it is one of the forms of talaq which I said, which was bid'ah. For example, he divorces her during her hayd, or he divorces her 3 times at once, or he divorces her during her tohar, her regular time, but not her hayd, but he has had intercourse prior to divorcing her. Does it count? And the answer is yes, it counts. However, he is sinning at the same time. He is sinning.
Who is sinning?
The person who gave talaq, yes. The man. For divorcing his wife. Yeah, yes, it's bid'ah, but it counts. It counts. Yes, it counts. Yes.
مس شو اسمه مصحف
مس المصحف.
لا يمسه إلا المطهرون.
لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. Yes.
Can someone can يعني